to another episode of the Your Company Health Podcast. This is our 8th episode in season 1. And my name is Andre Wright, your host, and
I'm Anne-Marie Giglio, your other host.
So our guest today is an experienced executive providing water filtration to homes and offices for many years. Today we have Skip Rolquin of Dramatic Water Solutions. Skip, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you, Andre and Anne-Marie?
Great. Welcome.
Yeah, doing well, Skip. And it's a pleasure to have you on the show today. So Skip, we're just going to dive right in and get the show moving. So tell us about your business and give us a background of how you started.
I started, I've been doing water filtration here for 20 years now. And the way the business started is I actually started the business for a high school friend of mine who brought me to Atlanta to work for him. I did that for about a year and a half, working for him in another industry. And then he decided he wanted to start a water filtration company and he wanted me to start it for him. So that's how I got into the business, starting it for him. He sent me out west to a water filtration company that he knew out west. I learned what they did, and I brought it back here to Atlanta, thinking that eventually Atlanta would be popular with water filtration like they are in California, even though the water in California is not quite as good as it is here. But anyway, so we wanted to grow the business real fast. There were 5 of us to start out, and we were growing the business about 30 customers a month. We did that for about a year and a half, and believe it or not, it wasn't growing fast enough for my friend. And so at that point in time, I bought the business from him. And so that's how I got into the water filtration business. I started it for a friend of mine and then bought the business from him. And I've been growing it ever since.
It's all yours now.
Yeah, it's been all mine for about 18 years now.
That's great. That's great.
It is good.
Yeah, that's great. So what are the main services that you offer?
So we do all types of water filtration, but we concentrate on purified water systems, ultrafiltration water systems, alkaline water systems. And we do office water coolers using water filtration. We don't do bottled water. We also provide an office coffee service. We started that about 10 years ago when the coffee companies got in the water filtration business, and it ticked me off, so I got into the coffee business. And then I found out the margins are pretty good, so I stayed there. We do whole house water filtration, and then we service all types of water filtration systems. So if Anne-Marie buys a water filtration system before she knew me and needs it serviced, I can take care of that as well.
Mm-hmm. So what's your main revenue? Like, what's your main business right now? And I have a follow-up question for that.
Gosh, it changes all the time, but right now the best part of my business is the whole house water filtration. With everyone staying at home and hunkered down at home, they're thinking more about their homes. And water filtration for the home is big. Office water coolers is always big, and the office coffee service is usually big, but not right now.
Yeah, I was going to ask you how COVID had impacted, because obviously the offices are shut down, but I wondered about homes. So that is how people are trending. They're more concerned with their entire nest, I guess. So water's a big part.
Yeah, so people have kind of hunkered down, gone home, all the families at home, they got the kids from college at home. So they're just thinking more about their homes. And I always say that water filtration for a home, depending on the type you want, is kind of like getting an additional appliance for your home.
Exactly. It's an investment, right?
It is.
Yeah, it can be.
Yeah.
All depends on what the person, buying your house in the future thinks about water filtration. But it's becoming more and more popular, as evidenced by my whole house systems kind of being very, very popular over the last couple of years, and even more so with the COVID-19. Although you got to plan around when people want you in their homes.
How is that working out for you? Is it more difficult? Is it more expensive for you to install systems now? How are you dealing with COVID?
Well, I really deal with COVID the way my customers deal with COVID, because I don't see COVID as big of a deal as some people. So I treat it how my customers treat it. Give you, for instance, today I was in a couple of offices. I know they want me to wear masks in their offices, so I go into their office wearing a mask. It's just knowing what your customers want. I had some customers that were scheduled for a whole house install in March, and they called me up, said their kids aren't letting any vendors in their house. And so we put off the installation, and they called again and said, we're ready mid-June. So we installed their systems in mid-June. They were okay with that, although they wanted us wearing masks when we were near them.
Right.
Kip, what do you have a specific industry that you serve, or what are the industries you serve?
So we deal with all sorts of industries. We deal with a lot of offices that have 10 or more people, accounting firms, real estate agents are a good customer for us, typically. Attorneys, law offices, things like that. They're very popular. And a lot of those offices I mentioned because they not only want good, clean drinking water for their office, but they also want the office coffee service.
Mm-hmm.
And so the more services I can put into an office, the more profitable that relationship is for us. And so that's why I bring those up. But any office with 5 or more employees can benefit from what we do, or any office that's just sick and tired of hauling water to their office for drinking water. And I always tell people, again, if someone likes their tap water, that's not a good customer for us. But everyone else is. And most people don't like it.
Right. Kip, I want to ask this because I'm thinking, about installing a system like this. And I want to know, do I install a system like this on all the taps in my home?
If you want to install something at all taps in the home, I'd recommend a whole house filtration system. It's just more economical, and you put it right at the source of the water coming into your house. So you not only put it at every faucet, every shower head in your home, but you also will protect your water appliances like your dishwasher, your clothes washer, your water heater, things like that. It can extend the life of those items, and it can protect, let's say, your clothes as you're throwing them in the clothes washer from those errant spots that you might get out of the washing machine.
Okay. Interesting.
So what is the difference between, because I know a lot of people are going to think that this is like softened water. What can you talk about that? Is this different? How is this different from softened water?
Yeah,
water softeners, whatever they're called.
So water softeners take the hardness out of the water, and they do that by removing the minerals, or they do that through a chemistry reaction with the water to get rid of the hardness in the water. And what I tell people around here is our water here is fairly soft to begin with. So our company doesn't deal with a lot of water hardness issues. The times when we do deal with it is if someone came from an area that has water softeners, because they notice that our water isn't quite as soft as theirs. Even though we have soft water, theirs was softer because they paid a lot of money to make it soft. And then the other exception is in some of the older sections of Atlanta, some inside the perimeter, where the distribution system may create hard water by putting things into the water after it's taken out of our surface water supply, usually the Chattahoochee River, where most of our water comes from. But surface waters are generally pretty soft because they're not running through rocks and minerals in the ground to pick up the mineral content. And that's what creates hardness in water. So there's third parties that certify products that basically you can submit it to this lab that does the certification, and they certify that what you say the system does, it does. And they'll produce reports that say, if you put this much of this type of water going into the system, here's what you'll get coming out. And typically it shows in percentages of what they call reduction. So if you put some lead in water and you run it through a purified water system, most purified water systems will reduce the amount of lead in the water by, let's say, 98%. And the third-party certifications will certify that, so that you as a consumer can be sure that that's what it does. And we deal with both certified and non-certified systems. Most of our what we call point of use systems are certified systems that are certified to do what we say they do. Those are the purified water systems, the ultrafiltration systems, and the alkaline water systems. The ones that aren't certified are our whole house systems, because we actually put them together from scratch and we've never submitted them for testing. We know that for instance, the sediment filters are tested to remove sediment, and the carbon filter will absorb the chlorine and inorganics and some fuel byproducts that are in tap water. But our whole house systems have not been tested. The real test of our whole house systems are when we put them in a house and I get feedback like I got today from a customer. I asked him how his whole house water system is. I put it in Friday, and his answer to me was just wonderful.
Already, that's great.
So Skip, you touched briefly on alkaline water, and there's been this buzz about alkaline water. What is it all about?
So alkaline water is water basically that has a high mineral content in the water. And it can be put in the water in a bunch of different ways. And so the buzz has been created with a lot of multi-level marketing companies selling very expensive systems that produce alkaline water. And then they've attached to that some health benefits where they make claims on it's healthier, and they make all sorts of claims. It depends on who's selling it, what the claim is. I don't get into health claims because it's not my bailiwick. What I try to do is sell, if someone comes to me and wants alkaline water, I'll give them alkaline water. But the way I do alkaline water is different than most. What I do is take a purified water system and first purify the water. And the reason I do that is most alkaline water systems don't take everything out of the water first before they put stuff back in the water. So if there's bad stuff in the water to begin with, and some people would think that fluoride's bad for you, some people don't, just depends. But let's use fluoride for an example. If someone buys one of these expensive alkaline water systems and they don't want fluoride in their water, it won't take the fluoride out of the water. So it keeps it in the water and then adds more minerals to it, and the customer may not want that. What we do is strip everything out of the water using purified water, and then we add what's called an alkaline mineral filter that puts good minerals back in the water, has some magnetizing characteristics that are supposed to be healthy as well. And it raises all of the alkaline water systems, talk about raising the pH of the water.
Right, that's all it is. It's just a higher pH. Yeah.
But the way they do that is just raise the mineral content in the water, and that raises the pH of the water. And the thought is that it's healthier drinking water. I don't know if it is or not, but I know that if someone thinks it is, they want it, so I sell it. We can talk
about that another time, but tell us how your filtration system. A lot of people think they turn on the water, or they use, a Brita filter or something, and they've cleaned the water, or it's been through the city system and it's clean. So what are your systems actually removing from the water that's already theoretically filtered? Like, what are you finding in the filters, and what do you find?
You mean in filtering out city water, or
city water, for example, the tap water that comes out of the tap? I mean, what's the difference between that water and water that's been filtered by your system?
So a lot of things. The big difference is the red clay. There's lots of red clay in our tap water.
Mm-hmm.
the city can't filter it out, and because it's in surface water, as y'all have seen, when it rains and you go over the Chattahoochee River, it's red. Well, they're still sucking that water into the reservoirs for drinking water. They can't stop because we as consumers keep consuming it. But they can't filter out the red clay. It's too fine. And so I find a lot of dirt, rust, red clay in the sediment filters. And then the other thing is taking the chlorine out that the city puts in. The carbon filters will take that out. And then there's a whole bunch of other byproducts that can be in water from consumers, anywhere from prescription drugs to inorganics and fuel byproducts from the fuel tanks that are underground. They can leach into the groundwater and end up into our water sources. And they've all been tested, and there have been tests on the water here to find that there are things like that. E. coli is another big one when it rains. Our surface waters get a lot of E. coli in it from the animal runoff.
Right. So that's a big one. That's a big difference right there. You're filtering out the E. coli, you're filtering out the petroleum byproducts, which are inevitable. Prescription drugs, you can actually filter those out.
Yeah, purified water system will filter it out. Now,
that's great.
Testing for purified water systems is not new enough to test for filtering out prescription drugs. But if they can filter out dissolved minerals in the water, my confidence level is pretty high they can filter out prescription drugs.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Interesting. And Skip, what sort of lifespan do the various water treatment systems have?
So the systems have filters with them, and the filters need to be changed. So most systems have what's called manifolds that the filters screw into. And most of the manifolds that I've installed over the 20 years are still out there in service. What we do is change the filters that connect to those manifolds, and then we periodically change the O-rings. Changing O-rings is important because eventually the O-rings will crack and can leak. So it's important to change those. And as long as you sanitize the systems as regularly as you can, a purified water system needs to be sanitized once a year, for example. And that's because they take out the chlorine out of the water. And so over time, it could be exposed to bacteria and things like that the chlorine kills, right? So periodically, and we do this for our customers at least once a year, is go in and sanitize their purified water systems to make sure they're free from bacteria before we put the new filters in. It's part of the service we provide on the systems, but all the systems last, most filters last a year. A purified filter will last 3 to 5 years. An alkaline filter will last a couple of years before being replaced. They're all different depending on the size and the type of the filter. A whole house sediment filter should be changed once a year, but that's just the casing that goes in the filter. The carbon filter, depending on the house, should be changed every 3 to 5 years. With water filtration, size matters. So it depends on how big it is and how much water throughput you got going through the filter.
Right.
Fantastic. And Skip, I was browsing your site, and in one of your articles on your website, you mentioned the secret of fluoride in water. What is this, and what should we be aware of?
But it's kind of a sarcastic article on fluoride, and it's attached to a video from Dr. Strangelove, where he's talking to his comrade about how the commies use fluoride in water to control the people. And I put it out on my blog as kind of a sarcastic look at fluoride, because half the people think fluoride's good for you and half of them think it's bad. So it's a attention grabber, and it was kind of a funny video that I saw. So that's where that comes from. But
so what do you think of fluoride? I know half says it's good and half says it's bad. What are your thoughts on fluoride?
All right, so it depends on who you ask. The dentists say fluoride's good and all this, but I always tell my customers, when you go to a dentist and they're doing a fluoride treatment, how many of them tell you to swallow it?
None.
I mean,
None.
they always tell you to spit it out, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
spit it out.
Now, the reason for that is it's a higher concentration of fluoride, so it can be dangerous at that level, and we've got a much lower level in city water. But I personally think it's ridiculous, but a lot of people think it helps teeth. And, you know, the dentists have done a pretty good job of promoting fluoride treatments. That's what their business is. So, you know, it just depends on what people think. The people who don't want fluoride think it's a poison and builds up over time in your body. So it's just like anything else, politics, whatever. There's half the people thinking this way and half people thinking this way. The good news is I can cater to people who want fluoride or who do not want fluoride. I can do either or.
You can tune the filter to leave fluoride in if people want that.
No, it's the type of system that you recommend for the person. So if you want fluoride in your water, I'd recommend a filtered water system or an ultrafiltration system. Both of them do not take fluoride out of the water.
Right.
But if you want fluoride taken out, I'd recommend a purified water system. And we now have some whole house water systems that can take fluoride out of the whole house water. It's a whole nother unit to a whole house system. So it costs another $800-900, but it does remove fluoride from the water.
So you're totally a customer service based business. I mean, you have whatever anybody could ask you for.
Yeah, I'm kind of the independent insurance guy of the water filtration business. Where I figure out what the customer wants, and then I go get it for them. You know, I had a customer that wasn't happy with the purified water system that I put in his house 15 years ago. He's been using it for 15 years, and all of a sudden he's not happy with it. So I sent him 4 other options of purified water systems. Now he wants purified water. He just doesn't want that one system that's in his house. And it's all because his wife has decided she doesn't like it. So, you know, if mama doesn't like it, we got to do something else. So I've given them 3 other options of purified water systems, and I'm waiting for them to make a choice, and I can get that system and swap it out for them.
What effect will your water treatment systems have on the taste and feel? Or is there any?
Well, one of my taglines is my customers have great taste. So it's why I have that as a tagline. Taste is really important, and all the systems I have and provide my customers affect the taste of the water. And what's intriguing and what I like about my business is they all affect the taste differently. So an alkaline water system will taste different than a purified water system, which will taste different than an ultrafiltration system. They all taste different. So you got to figure out what your customers like. A lot of times I'll ask them, well, when you try different bottles of water, which brand do you like? Because I don't know if you've noticed, but Aquafina tastes different than Dasani, tastes different than Zephyr Hills, and there's reasons for that. One of them comes from a spring. One of them is done with purified water systems. You know, they just take city water and bottle the water using purified water systems.
Yep.
And the last one does purified water systems, but then they put in things to make it taste sweeter and saltier, so you drink more of it.
I don't know if you drink more of it. Well, you drink more of it, but it's because it's American sweet palate. That's always a good target. So when you say that they put sweetness in it, though, is that actually a mineral that they're adding that's sweet, or are they adding some kind of sugar?
It's a mineral that adds sweetness to the water.
That's interesting.
It's a mineral.
Yep.
Huh. What mineral is that? Can I ask you?
I believe it's magnesium.
Magnesium. Okay. Because, you know, when you buy an electrolyte water, for example, it's magnesium, potassium, and sodium.
Right.
Which is basically your alkaline water, right? It's in that neighborhood.
Well, again, they're minerals, so any minerals added to water can be considered alkaline water because it's the pH that makes it alkaline, right?
Right, right. But it
Um,
has that more slippery feel, and it does taste different. I mean, that is clearly a different flavor.
Yep.
But I never
Like spring water, though. Spring water has a definite taste difference, and it's because it's got mineral content in it from the spring.
Yeah. Oh, I know in Europe, I've traveled a little bit in Europe, in Italy and Germany and a little piece of France. And every town you go to has a different water, a mineral water. And they're fairly local. And every single one of them tastes different.
Right.
So, yeah, it depends where it came out of the ground.
And I get people all the time that say, how's your water taste? And it depends. It depends on where you live even.
Right.
Because,
Do you have clients outside the Atlanta area?
I have a few, not too many. Most are relatives.
So it just made me think about that because I know the water in Florida tastes different than the water here, and the water in Alabama tastes different than the water here. So in New York, where I used to drink that water from the Catskills, that was awesome. And it tastes very different than the water we get here.
Yeah, most of the systems I have in homes outside of the Atlanta area are in relatives' homes. Mm-hmm. My brothers, sisters, mother, father, cousins, things like that.
So even that sulfur water in South Florida, you can change the taste of that by filtering it?
Yes.
That stuff's nasty.
Yeah, that's iron oxide.
It is?
And it's from iron in the water breaking down and creating sulfur gas.
Yeah, okay, so that's all it is. So you can filter that out then.
Fantastic.
Right. A softener will take that out.
And Skip, if the system malfunctions, will I know about it, or will I end up consuming contaminated water?
So most of the filtration systems that I use, and usually it's not that they malfunction, it's usually that more dirt comes through the city water than it can that can pass through the filters. And so what happens is they clog up, the water pressure drops, and that's a sure sign that you need to change your water filters. A purified water system will stop producing water when that happens because the pores are so small. A little bit of dirt getting in the pores will keep the water from flowing through it. And that is why I've got one of my biggest customers is Georgia Tech, and I actually change their filters every 3 months because the water there is so bad it clogs up the filters. And I wouldn't put anything but a purified water system in that area.
Huh. Do you do any other universities?
No.
Because when my daughter was first at GCSU in Milledgeville, we were told that the water was bad there. They might need you, number one, but number two, I wonder if that's true. How would we know?
Well, I go to Milledgeville once a year.
Uh-huh.
I'm actually going there in August. And so I could take care of them if they want. But most likely for a university, it would be for their departments that have a decent amount of employees in it that want good, clean drinking water.
If she's not there now, she's at UGA, but her first year was there, and that's what we were told. But if somebody like that was interested, how would we connect you? Who would you talk to? Who would you need to talk to?
At a university?
Yeah, at UGA, where she is now.
The way I got throughout Georgia Tech was the guy in the budget and planning office was a big fan of what I did. And so when people submitted their budgets and they had bottled water in their budgets, he would refer them to me. And so it was great because he's looking at the expense of it all. He knows what I charge, and he knows that I can save them money, make them ecologically better by not using bottled water.
Right, and no waste, exactly. much more cost effective, I would think, especially on a large scale.
Yeah, for a while, Georgia Tech was a tough sell because Coca-Cola was on their board,
Mm-hmm.
and they didn't want to get them mad. But once the ecology stuff kind of took hold, that it's greener to go with water filtration, they started doing it throughout the university, and I just kind of got caught up into it to the point where I've got a whole house water filtration system on the president's office there at Georgia Tech.
So I think I'm going to open up a whole new arm of business for you, because it just makes sense. And truthfully, when you're ingesting water and it's not clean and pure, it's an additional stress on your own immune system and your own body to deal with that. And right now, we need all the help we can get. We need our immune systems humming, so that if we do get sick, we survive and survive well. So that would just take one more of those stressors out of your life to have really pure, clean water. I could see. That's why I'm back to my initial question. I wondered if people were, sort of thinking along those lines at all, and business had picked up for you now.
Yeah, well, that's why I'm talking to Andre, right, Andre?
Definitely. Marketing is super important, right? Yeah. But Skip, we're winding down now. But I want you to tell our audience, things like these, people will waver in terms of whether they should implement a system like this or just focus on buying bottled water. But if you could tell our audience why they should implement a filtration system now in their homes.
Well, first, the water filtration provides you with the opportunity to have good, clean water whenever you want. You don't have to go to the store. You don't have to haul it around. You don't have to buy it. It's just there. That's the number one convenience factor that we provide is water, good, clean drinking water, shower water, whatever, right where you want to use it. And as much as you want, because you're already paying for the water. It's just going through a filtration system. So it's like having another appliance for the house. And what makes us different is we actually service what we sell. A lot of people sell water filtration, but you won't hear from them after they sell you the water filtration. And if you don't service it, it doesn't do its job over time. Like I said, you got to change filters regularly, things like that. When we sell to our customers, we contact them either 6 months, a year from now, and say, you need to change your filters, things like that. So service after the sale is real important. Installing the systems is really important. There's a lot of online sellers that I don't know how I guess they get local plumbers to install it for them, but then the local plumber may not know how it works. And then who changes the filter a year from now? So I worry about stuff like that, but that's the competition that I deal with. But I always tell people that the reason you want to do business with us is because I'm the guy in charge, and I actually manage the business. I do a lot of the installs and filter changes myself. Some people say it's good, some people say it's bad, but that's just the way it's working right now. But I love it when I put in something and someone gets as much water as they want. And then I've sold a lot of systems saying that because my water is better, the ice is better. And so it makes a really good bourbon on the rocks.
That's right. Drinks taste better. There you go.
Fantastic.
Not just coffee.
And Skip, if you can tell our viewers, how can we reach you? Someone is listening and they're like, hey, I want to contact Skip immediately. How can they reach you?
So this is where I should put up my phone number right here, right? So you can always call 770-622-5800. My email is skip@dramaticwatersolutions with an S on the end.com. And those are the best ways to get me. And if you have trouble that way, my cell phone is 678-438-1993. I respond pretty good to texts at that number.
Fantastic. Skip, it was a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thanks, Andre. Thanks, Anne Marie. I appreciate it.
Be safe out there.
All right.